What's up?
No,
you do it this time.
What's up, guys? Welcome to podcast 15. My name is Matt Michaels,
I'm Aaron Sawyer.
and today we're going to talk about archetypes. And so, Aaron, can you open it up a little bit? Give us a brief overview where the archetypes come from and how they apply to us and all of that.
Yeah, man. So a book that changed my life in a positive way was King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Robert Moore. He studied Carl Jung, and Carl Jung birthed so many amazing psychological revolutionaries. And he talks about the four archetypes that exist within masculine psychology, and we're going to do the feminine version of this as well. It affected me in a profound way because it allowed me this new lens or perspective to look at. It's like, okay, now I'm in my warrior energy. Now I'm in my magician energy. So I'd love to kind of go through what these things symbolize and also go through what the shadow aspect of each of these archetypes looks like so you can identify them within yourself and make the proper changes that you need to, or even use them to empower yourself.
Cool. So the first archetype is the king. So what is the shadow side of the king?
So the shadow side of the king is the tyrant and the weakling. So you got the active shadow and the passive shadow. So the king in its light is, think about it, the king is he's wise, he's the wise man, he's earned his stripes, he's gone through his warrior phase and worked up to the chief. It's another way to symbolize the king. And I think of the king as the aspect of masculine consciousness that is that infinite stillness and the wisdom that exists within that stillness. So the king is, in its light, it is the ruler. I was reading this book, Iron John, recently, and it said the king doesn't create order. However, order follows the king wherever he goes. So people think a king is like this disciplinarian, but really it's, in your alignment, you are so in tune with yourself and so aligned and at peace with existence and connected that order follows you. So it's not like people have to obey you, which is where you get into the shadow aspect of the tyrant who exercises his power. You see it with the Maos and the Hitlers and the Mussolinis who...
The Americans.
Yeah, just straight up power tripping, and you get to this point of consciousness where you will do anything and rule by any means necessary.
Yeah.
You see this with abusive husbands who, they believe that their word, essentially they're trying to take the place of God, and their word is God's rule and you must obey them. But inside is the weakling. That's the passive shadow within that active shadow. So if they're behaving like a tyrant, that's them projecting it externally, but internally is the weakling, where it's that, they're terrified. Behind every genocidal maniac is a terrified little child within them just begging for attention.
So a lot of it sounds like the difference between like a boss or a leader. So the light side would be a true leader where they're just living life to their highest level of integrity and people want to get behind and follow their lead. They're not trying to boss people around. They're just living their best version of their life and people want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. So they're leading by example rather than just telling people what to do, essentially.
Yeah, and this is cool because whenever me and Matt decided we were going to start collaborating on a business level, I was like, "You're my boss now." He's like, "I'm not your boss." Don't do that to me. And that the weakling aspect of the king, if he's living out his shadow, because everybody has the potential. This is existing in all of us all the time. Even if you're living your truth and exuberating exuding, when you're exuding the qualities of a king that's in his alignment, there's still the weakling and the tyrant within you. You probably hear those voices. You need to integrate that. And what the weakling cannot do is provide stability. So if you have somebody in a hierarchy position and they're an authority figure over you, it might be helpful for you to look at them and identify these facets. Like, is this person really creating stability? Or do they have a hard time creating stability, or, men creating stability in the household? And I want to mention the feminine version of the queen, right? And it's the same thing, the tyrant and the weakling. And you look at like Jezebel in the Bible, with how that story played out with Elijah. It's like a woman who maybe her heart was wounded at a very young age, and she turns into the tyrant, can be like a Hillary Clinton, where it's just like bodies on bodies, and they can be completely ruthless, and or maybe a queen who's denying her power becomes that weakling where she's just eternally submissive because she completely blocked her throat chakra off and doesn't believe that anything that she's saying has any value or worth. So a queen in her alignment is the feminine counterpart to the infinite stillness of the masculine. The feminine queen is the infinite energy, the infinite love, the movement. It's like the eternal observer, and then the eternal observed is the feminine, where it's like everything that could be created ever. So whenever they're working symbiotically, the king and queen can, rule empires, not by force, but by divine will and by love.
Right. By example.
Yeah, by example.
Yeah. Cool. So the next one would be warrior. Warrior, man. Tell us about the warrior a little bit.
Dude, I mean, whenever you look at the warriors, it's like, okay, so their psychological lens is that life works in cycles of 12. There's so many ways to view this, but you got 12 to 24 is kind of your adolescence. 24 to 36 is your warrior phase. 36 to 48 is the king phase. Ironically, 48 to 60 is the lover phase, where you just come back and it's like, I just want to put the sword down. I just want to love, and so, being 26 years old right now, I knew consciously, because I read this book when I was 19, I knew consciously that I was entering my warrior phase. So it's kind of like this rite of passage. It's an initiation that you got to pick your sword up and you got to go out while you have this amazing youthful energy and go create something. You got to build your, the king is going to solidify the legacy, but the legwork that you put in now during the warrior phase is going to determine the fruits that you bear as a king. So when you look at the warrior, it's wit, it's decisive action, it's this beautiful, like, I'm a battle rapper, right? Like I'm very much in that warrior phase, and you'll feel this calling to, like, I gotta create this masculine energy that I feel has been stripped away from us in a major aspect. But that's why they want to numb us out with porn and stimulants, is so we don't go build and we don't come together and create something beautiful.
We're distracted. We're too distracted to go out and build and create. Yeah, it's almost like they're robbing men of their warrior phase because of prolonged adolescence. Like, instead they're just playing games and watching games rather than going out and creating their own life without having that purpose. So what is the light side and the shadow side for the warrior?
Dude, so we're talking, and I want to touch on that, like, you're right, the prolonged adolescence, there's no initiation process. They used to take a kid when he was 10, 11, 12 years old, toss him out to the woods, make him live in the dark for 3 days, and then he would be met by all of the warriors. They had to strip him of the mother, and the mothers were in on it too, and they'd act so terrified, oh no, and then the mothers would get around together like, something do, the queens, right? And just because you graduate high school, it doesn't mean you're initiated. Just because you got a college degree, it doesn't mean you went through an actual masculine initiation. That's so.
That's good, and it's almost like in today's world we have to choose our own initiation. So, like whenever I stepped out of my slave job and stepped into entrepreneurship, that's the initiation. That's the challenges that I've basically signed up for challenges of initiation and becoming a man, and now you're doing that same thing.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and one of my initiations was stepping out as a rapper and an artist, where facing exile. I'm gonna be a rapper that speaks about the truths that people have a hard time facing within themselves. And I will take all of the arrows for this mission. And that's kind of the mentality. You got to be hungry as a warrior, you know? You got to have something that, Paul Chek says, if you have a dream that's big enough, you don't need a crisis. And that's huge, So the active shadow of the warrior is the sadist, and the passive shadow is the masochist. So the sadist is like, think about the dude who enjoys killing for fun. It's like the shooters in the gangs, the people that sign up for the military, not because they believe they're fighting for a just cause, but they just want to see some red mist. They just want to chug C4 and shoot some Muslims. And it's like, you see that comes from that wounded little boy that, it's like you were abused as a kid, or you were stripped of your power. So as soon as you get to exert some power and influence over another, it's like you take such great pleasure in it because you love seeing other people in pain.
Yeah.
And
So you could kind of tie that in with like, even on a less intense version, like your typical bully, right? They're bullied at home by their parents and beaten, and so now they want to come do that to the other kids at school. So that they're kind of taking over that sadist, that dark side of the warrior.
yeah, and a great way to integrate that is to understand that a real warrior of the light has mercy. It knows it keeps its sword sheathed, but doesn't pull it out and swing it unless it's guided by the divine. There's a time to swing the sword. There's a time to fight back. There's a time to stand up and project that warrior energy. But if you're doing it for the sheer pleasure of controlling these outcomes, and mind you, if these young warriors are still under the command of the tyrant. So it's like in our society, in the shadow side, you have these sadists following the command or the programming of these tyrants. And I think about like horror movies, like serial killer movies and stuff like that. Like people get off on that stuff watching other people go through pain.
Yeah.
But really, it's their inner child screaming like help. It's really ironically the biggest wound that they need to heal is they would have a very hard time seeing somebody having a great time. And that's the part. So if you can see that aspect in you, the best way to heal that is to take pleasure in people taking pleasure in life, the simple joys of life, coming back to, okay, I don't need to inflict pain on others to feel whole. I can come back to getting joy from these simple acts in life. And that comes with being more present in yourself.
What was the passive shadow for the
Dude, we got the masochist. So the self-destructive, submissive person that allows others to dominate them or lack self-protection. So I think about it like I fell heavily on this side in my lesser developed years because I didn't want to hurt other people, but I had no problem hurting myself. You relate?
And that's like, yeah, my entire adolescence, I was a masochist, just destroy myself with drugs and alcohol, abuse myself, treat myself like a trash can. Yeah, totally. Same thing. Had no desire to hurt others, but I definitely had this like extreme urge to destroy myself.
And it's like that striking in is so painful, but you feel like it gives you power because it gives you some form of control over something. I remember like being on the soccer field and I would just throw myself in the most dangerous situations. I didn't care about the ball. I wanted to feel pain, and that is, the passive shadow of the warrior being the masochist is like, you're not saving yourself. You're not saving anybody by hurting yourself. really the hardest thing to do is open yourself up to love and loving yourself. It's like, if you really want to feel that pain, it's so much more painful to heal because you have to feel the pain you've already inflicted on your stomach. Like, you could flog your back all day and that feels regular, but try feeling the pain of, like, it's funny, like, one of the Chinese torture tactics, they would just tickle people. I mean, like, really? I feel like because that
would be the worst.
They wouldn't be able to feel the high levels of pleasure. So, like, I think that we have such a low capacity for pleasure because we're so numbed out on a day-to-day basis that, like, it would be really hard for a lot of men in our society to actually open up. It would be so much more painful for them to open up to the pleasure of life and really work on embodying themselves and like that is so foreign to them. They would much rather get punched in the face.
It's interesting because I also feel like they have a low capacity for pain, and so the correlation of if you have a low capacity for pain, you have a low capacity for pleasure. You got to be able to endure both.
And you can have a high capacity for pain and a low capacity for pleasure. And you got a high capacity for pleasure and low capacity for pain. And that the answer is in the balance of the two. I honestly believe that one lens and perspective of life is it's a dance between suffering and pleasure.
Well, totally. Like, even talking about abusing myself, the masochism, well, I was actually seeking pleasure, but it caused me to endure a lot of extra pain. So it's about finding the balance between those two.
Now it's like opening back up to, like, how deeply can I love this blackberry tree? Like,
so deeply.
I started, like, so I decided to stop numbing myself out a couple months ago, like, all the way, right? I started to connect back to my emotions, asking myself, what am I feeling right now? And since those emotions turned back on, I'll be at home with Reb, and I just feel this pulsating love coming from my heart chakra. Like, I feel it in my arms. It feels like I'm having a heart attack, but really it's my heart welling up with this love. And it's so foreign. I'm like, but really the lesson for me in this warrior phase is to embody that love that I have for people. Because you can go out and do so much good in the world. You don't have to, abuse or be abused. You can go out, be a loving warrior of the light, that you can be a protector. There's always ways that you can exert your masculine energy without hurting people.
And I think part of that masculine energy is vulnerability. Like, if you think about a warrior makes himself vulnerable, he puts himself in danger's way. And so, like, bringing that back to relationship, kind of like you were talking about with Rebel, is the other day I was going through it a lot and just sitting there, and in the past I just keep that to myself, shut it off with drugs or alcohol. And then as I'm sitting there and I'm just opening up to her about what I'm feeling and what I'm going through, and then the same thing, it's like I feel this deep, intimate connection with Calvin because I can be authentic and real and vulnerable with her, and that's not something I've been comfortable with. So it's I think that a lot of people see being vulnerable as not being masculine, but it's one of the most masculine things
because you're subjecting yourself to real pain and rejection, and it feels so good whenever you have a feminine counterpart who is accepting.
I love it totally.
And I want to touch on the warrior woman. She also has a duty to go out and build, and I feel like women are in this peculiar position where they felt so suppressed by the tyrants or the masochists or the sadists that they have this opportunity to, like we're talking about creating new neural pathways. There's a part of them in their shadow that wants to see men suffer because of what their lineage has been, and the sadist within the woman wants to manipulate men, wants to inflict pain on them because it's like maybe they were abused in some form and they want to see a man go through that, or the masochist aspect where it's like, well, I'm worthless, so just do with me what you will. I've heard so many stories of women just like in intimacy or sexual relations, they're just like, I don't want to be with this guy, but I am with him and I'm having sex with him right now, so let me just disassociate until it's done.
Yeah.
And like, that's no way to live. That, you know, women are deserving of the true embodiment of pleasure. That's their divine gift. They're so much more connected to love and pleasure than men are, and that embodiment of the feminine light can bring about a true form of enlightenment. That's why Eckhart Tolle says women are closer to enlightenment, because they have this closer connection to the flow of life.
They're literally the portal from that dimension into this physical one.
And you see all of the people that are going, the majority of people that are going to the spiritual workshops, that are going to yoga, that are doing that are doing the work,
Totally.
the spiritual work is women. So.
Even the natural healing work, it's all women.
Yeah.
Women are open to it, men are all closed off. Yeah, that's interesting.
And I really do see women paving the way in the aspect of consciousness. Men have these the thinkers of the world and the logical philosophies. And you know, it was funny, this David Deida, who's a great writer about masculine and feminine energies and the polarities, he said, you know, they were asking, why were no religions run by women? He's like, well, they were, but they didn't write anything down, because that's such a dude thing to do, is write down the transcript. It was there. It was embodied in the present through the
right. I feel like religion is the structured version of spirituality, and so women are going to be more spiritual in nature. It's just that connection in general. And I do think it's interesting, and we don't think about this in our age because we grew up in this patriarchy, but at one point in time, it was women that ran the community. Men only ran the community in times of warfare. Like, women were the governing source. They were the nurturers. They nurtured the community. Now it's been all flipped upside down. But if you look at indigenous cultures, it was women that ran shit, unless it was times of war.
And I mean, living with my wife, I understand why. We had a conversation yesterday where she was like, it was so funny, bro. She was like, I'm the leader. And I was like, oh yeah? You know, and then we had, after about 5 minutes of dialogue as to like, okay, you think you're leading me? And then I was like, but I'm not, like, I'm the leader. Like, I could drop the hammer at any time and what I say goes, because that's the masculine force. Right. I never do that. She's the navigator and I'm the protector. Right. She's the nurturer, I'm the disciplinarian. Like, and there's these natural roles that you'll find yourself living in whenever you embody.
You provide, so she manages.
Yeah, bro, and I need it. So I'm like the best manager ever. So if you're ever trying to book me, bro, hit my wife up, because I don't know. She will stand up for me more than I will, just because I'm like, okay, I'll endure this to go get to the next level. And Reb's like, why are you not getting paid yet?
Dude, bro, that's so interesting, because like when I was at Cornerstone, Callie kept saying, yo, they're fucking you. You need to get out of there. I'm like, no, I'm really grateful for the opportunity they've given me, so I want to serve in humility. And she was like, no, they're fucking you. You need to leave.
Dude, that's the embodiment of the warrior woman energy that can be like, and the warrior woman wouldn't necessarily say it to the person, but she would be your advisor and say it to you. And Reb's like, the people that I was working for, she's like, they don't give a fuck about you, bro. Like, they would replace you in 5 seconds. Like, and you need to charge your price for these battles and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Well, I have such a hard time standing up for myself.
Because again, it's like that. Am I worth it? You know, like we've talked about that a lot in the last podcast and this one. It's the self-worth and those issues of self-worth. And so sometimes you need that great woman behind you to remind you what you're worth.
Yeah, and it could be us acting out that masculine shadow of the masochist.
Oh, man, yeah. All right, man. So next up would be the magician. So give us a little summary of the magician real quick.
So like the magician, I think, is the creative, it's the intellect, it's that aspect of you that knows that you can control certain outcomes, wield certain powers. It's that inner magic within you. You know, during my spiritual awakening, I realized there was a lot of power in the written and spoken word. And I also understood that you could build or destroy with the word, you know. And you look at people that are in the great thinkers and philosophers and men that we look up to in this world, you know, that have come from, I mean, you think about Lao Tzu, right? Or Rumi, these ancient poets. That's where that poetry comes from. It's like they can understand, a magician in his light understands that he is a direct channel and vessel for spirit and truth. It's that putting away of the ego. It's the dissolution of the ego, saying, it's not me doing this. Look at what you've built. Look at what you've built. The man that's fully integrated his magician, saying, "This ain't me, bro. Like I'm just a pathway for God's expression to be created." And that's where that crown chakra activation of detachment is really important, bro. So if you look at the shadow aspect of it, whenever you look at the magician, you got the manipulator as the active shadow, and the innocent one is the passive shadow. So the manipulator uses knowledge and skills for personal gain and deceit, and is cunning and deceptive. So I'd say uninitiated boys that haven't been through that righthood or that rite of passage of manhood can really start to exhibit like, you ever see those like super feminine men that are kind of like little boys, but they're also like raping chicks and like sexually abusive? You know what I mean?
Fuck boys.
The fuck boys. And it's like, and I see, especially like, 'cause I'm an artist, I'm in the art world. I mean, I mostly just live with my wife because I completely avoid all of this. But like, I went, you know, downtown the other weekend, because Reb and the girls were doing a goddess circle thing. They wanted to go downtown. I obviously, in my king and warrior, did not think that was a good idea. Lo and behold, it wasn't a great idea. It wasn't, nothing like tragic happened, but it was like we'd go out into the club and it's straight up like, I'm like, it's like weird dark magicians, bro. It's just a bunch of dark wizards out here where like you think about the dudes at the raves doing the fucking hand magic, trying to like entice people into their weird little sex cult, you know? And it's like, bro, what are you doing? It's that active manipulator of like, oh, I realize, yeah, I maybe took some LSD or ketamine or mushrooms and realized I have these magical powers. Now let me use them for bad to get women to have sex with me.
Well, I mean, I would look at that just from our society. I think that we are ruled by black magicians and by dark magicians. And the music, the entertainment, it's all magic. And it's all harvesting your energy, essentially, to create the life that they want. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's true on the macrocosm and the microcosm.
Dude, yeah, and they're whether they know it or not, they're a direct byproduct of Lucifer and Arma. That is really the ultimate dark magician energy, is this metaphysical, six-dimensional entity that just wants people to feed into its negative vibration.
And I think that's interesting, you know, from a lot of religious people think magic is evil. And it's like everything is magic. It can't be good or evil. It's all how you intend to use it. I mean, prayer is magic. Like, you're speaking things into existence. That is magic, whether people want to accept that or not. So what is the light side of the magician?
So the light side of the magician, so you think about how this, you know, you got on the dark aspect, a dude manipulating women, sniffing blow, trying to get a bunch of chicks to have sex with them and just create negative energy, fuck with people's heads. The opposite side of that is like, you know, I'll use myself as an example in this one, where I walk into that environment and I like step between. The whole reason I was there was to protect these women in the goddess circle, right? So I step in and I'm literally in this rave world, creating my little magical orbs, doing my little dance magic, sending my orbs of protection around these women. So if a dude would approach a woman that was in our tribe, I step in with my light magic and I'm like, not today, Satan, you know what I mean? And so like, also, I think the man that sits and writes out positive manifestations for himself in the world, the man that decides that he wants to use technology for good instead of evil, the man that wants to protect people with his wit and keep people from being deceived, or integrating that active manipulator in you can help you. Like once you integrate that, okay, so whenever I was first writing songs, I had the option. I could feel this voice in my head that wanted me to write down the negative words, the negative option. Every line, I promised myself I was going to write something positive. I was going to take what the usual suspects would do or say, and I was going to write the holy version, or the light version of it. And that's that making that decision to be a magician of the light turns you into like a freaking wise wizard, and it feels awesome. And I definitely encourage men to integrate their magic a little bit more, because people, I think that's like a lost art, bro. I don't see a lot of men believing in themselves enough to be like, yeah, no, I can definitely influence reality in a positive way.
Oh, totally. Well, most people don't even recognize the power that they have at all. And so it sounds to me like the main difference is on the shadow side, you're manipulating others in order to control, dominate, or destroy. And on the light side, it's all about creation.
Yeah.
It's all about creation.
And the passive shadow of the magician is the innocent one who doesn't want to. It's like you got the Pandora's box of knowledge and wisdom and alchemy and these amazing things. He just puts it away. He doesn't ever want to open it up because he doesn't want to know what's in there. He doesn't want to have to feel the pain of the truth. You know, like people like us have withstood the pain of decoding the system of control, even though it meant torture in our hearts for what our people are going through. But we see a lot of men out here being the innocent ones who saying, I don't want to feel my power, I don't want to know about that, I don't want to hear about that, versus the active shadow of like, yeah, I learned it.
And that's interesting. That makes me think about like, that's what religion does. Because religion makes you scared of all those things. It makes you think that all these things are evil, so you become the innocent one, right? And you never really tap into and have the impact on the world that you could. You know, fear.
And for the female side, or the feminine side, you have the priestess, who represents wisdom, intuition, esoteric knowledge, and insight, mystical understanding. So like our women are very tapped in, right? And I feel like they embody that priestess energy where, you know, we might have to read something 4 or 5 times to confirm it or experiment or over. A woman's intuition is instantaneous, you know, where the men being stuck in their head can get very disconnected from the world or disconnected from their intuition. So like if you have a woman of the light in your life, like I love trusting Reb's intuition, because I just know that her gut feeling is something that's her magical power, bro. You know,
that has been something I've learned with Callan too. There were so many examples of like when I'm trying to collaborate with somebody, she's like, no, you don't want to collaborate with them. Like, you don't want to collaborate with that person. I'm like, dude, it's fine. And I do it. And then it's like, oh yeah, you were right. I didn't want to collaborate with them. And so I really learned that like, okay, that inner voice inside Callan knows what's up. I need to be able to trust that inner voice.
Yeah, Reb is my secret weapon, bro. Like, people will pull up in the rap game, yo, let's work, let's build, I want to get you on this card, I want to get you on this show, let's do a feature. And Reb's like, oh, trust him. It's a snake. I'm getting snake energy. Like, I remember one time I was talking to somebody, and as I was talking to him, she's texting me snake emojis. And I'm like, I'm so grateful I have that woman in life, because if I didn't, or if I hadn't integrated my own, you know, magician fully, then I would have, even entertaining that person a little bit, knowing that they're a snake, but still entertaining it, gets you in some sticky situations.
Oh, been there and done that.
You know?
Totally.
And so the final aspect of the archetypes is the lover. And I think that's huge, because love is, it's what makes the world go around. Is somehow you can't get enough of it, but you also run away from it whenever it shows up, right? And so the shadow being the addicted lover and the impotent lover. So a lover in its full alignment is, a lover in its full alignment is like we talked about it being from age 48 to 60. It's like you're getting to that phase where you can just stop and smell the roses. You put in the work, you're enjoying the fruits of your labor fully.
It's like that grandparent energy.
Yeah, grandpa energy, dude. And it's being as young as we are, it's gonna show up in different ways. But a full embodied lover is getting as close to unconditional love as you can. Like that's something that me being in my warrior phase has had a very hard time doing, because I have such energy to go out for these goals. I can almost become heartless if I'm not careful. I can become, I can forget to have love for every single individual on this planet. And so that's something that, having a woman in my life has really shown me, is like the feminine, intuitive, unconditional love is like, okay, I need to integrate this into my life, because I don't want to, everybody wants love, whether they admit it or not. Love is something that you can't just pretend that you don't care about love or you're never going to find love. Like, if you're saying that to me is an indicator that is the one thing that you want the most.
Totally.
And so going into the addicted lover is like, you are addicted to the sensational pleasure of finding love and losing it. And, it's like the Pablo Picasso with like 8 girlfriends and they're all mad at him, but they all love him. And he's just like in this wild web of surface based pleasure.
So it's more of a focus on lust rather than love.
Yeah, because
infatuation, the high from
you'll go through these honeymoon phases with multiple different women just because you're addicted to that new sensation. But to me, bro, real love is that eternal love. Like, I love you no matter what you look like, no matter how old we are. Yeah. The addicted lover does not like that, bro. Like, what do you mean, bro? That's like all that matters, And the passive shadow of that is the impotent lover, who maybe it's the guy who just stays in his room and never connects with a real woman. That's why it's so crazy doing like
So you're avoiding intimacy altogether?
Altogether, you're like, I'm just gonna lock myself in. It kind of goes in with that, what up, Todd? It kind of goes in with that, Todd's a dog. It goes in with that aspect of like the magician who never opens up his power. Maybe he just stays in his room, or maybe he still lives with his parents type of deal. Like the impotent lover is the person that craves that face-to-face connection, but they're so socially anxious or stuck in their head that they never go out and take action on becoming the person that can cultivate loving relationships. And so with that, you see, VR porn has got to be the worst possible thing that's porn. All porn, dude, VR in general, bro, is going to be gnarly for people because it gives them this opportunity to escape in their like fantasy world, but really they're in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I really think that their bodies are gonna like atrophy.
Well, dude, it's not even long until they'll be having sex with robots, bro, because they can have sex with this beautiful, it looks like a woman, but it doesn't talk back, doesn't have anything to say, doesn't make you grow, or doesn't challenge you. And I definitely see like that's where we're headed, probably for male and women, honestly.
Yeah, man, and it's our duty as warriors of the line, whatever phase you're in. These are all happening within you at the same time. Like, shout out to these psychologists for kind of decoding this.
Interesting.
So it's a great perspective to look through. Maybe today you need to look through the lens of the lover and be like, okay, where can I implement more unconditional love? But like, it seems that technology used by the dark magicians is like a tactic to cut us off from true unconditional love of God and nature. And so, it's our opportunity and duty to not become victim to this artificial world, which we'll get into probably in the next episode, you know what I'm saying? Bro, just like, don't fuck a robot. I don't know. Like, I don't know why I have to say that. But it's just like, don't bang these robots, bro.
Like, don't be watching people have sex on a screen all the time. Like, we shouldn't have to say that either, but it's like 95% of men are addicted, and I've been there.
I've been there too, bro. It's like, have your own intimacy. You got, and putting that away creates an actual natural drive to procreate rather than spilling your seed and becoming an impotent. It's like an addicted lover, an impotent lover, just cascading back and forth. We got to do an episode on pornography and the effect that it's had on men.
Yeah, we will definitely do that because I'm very passionate about that.
Because King, warrior, magician, lover, dude. I mean,
cool. Would you say anything to summarize or how people could really like implement these things in their lives? Like, what's the best way to use this information?
I think that taking it step by step, like taking a day to meditate with your inner king or queen, taking a day to sit with your inner warrior woman, your inner magician, your priestess, your inner lover. I think that that's a very practical way that you can maybe take an assessment, you know, reflect, take some time to reflect. Okay, maybe write down, what does my ideal king or queen look like? What qualities does he have? How does he move? And then identify the shadow side of it. You know, like, am I being a tyrant right now? Am I being a weak man? You know, like, am I trying to get this other person to submit to me through force? You know, am I trying to manipulate this situation? And if you can identify these archetypes and lenses within you, it gives you an opportunity to make a distinctive change.
So again, it's all about that awareness.
It starts with the awareness, bro.
Awareness.
All right, refresh, catch out.